Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it's like 37.
Can you just make sure I'm in the frame? Yeah.
Oh, you're in my class. And then he was yeah, you're at class too.
Did it start taping?
It was the awkwardest thing.
Everyone please take a seat.
Like, it was so awkward.
If you have any questions, please address them to me. We should all be silently now doing the do now. The question is there, and a similarly worded question as at the top of your notes for today. So go ahead and take 3 or 4 minutes and think about these maps. Got another 30 seconds or so. I know a lot of you guys already have something for each city, so just trying to think of another thing or two in the last few seconds.
Wait, where do we make our name tag?
Again, I need just a blank sheet of paper.
Oh, I need one.
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
You guys need markers too?
Yeah.
Marker would make it nice and visible. Okay, while I'm handing out markers, can I get a volunteer to talk about San Francisco's geography for a little bit? Dylan, do you think of anything?
We're surrounded a lot by water, like on the ocean.
Yes, and why is it good to be on an ocean?
They have a good navy.
Hmm?
You can have a good navy, and there's also not a lot of places to be attacked by land.
That's true, so there are fewer land areas from where to be attacked, right? So it's more defensible, right? And can you guys think, David, can you think of any other reason why it's good to be by water?
Water is a huge source of trade.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are by the sea, the people from like Asia can come and trade with you, whereas if you're locked in land, it's a lot harder.
Right, because, and I'm sure you know this, but what body of water is this?
The Pacific.
Right. Just asking David for now. That's the Pacific, so you have all of Asia and Australia, which is pretty far away, but you have all these places which can go directly to your city. That's a really good point. And what about with DC and Baltimore? Well, it's right there, but we have the other really important body of water bordering the US. We have the Atlantic Ocean. Sorry, but let's go back to San Francisco. So it's easily defensible, as Dylan told us. David mentioned really good trade. Anything else?
Transportation.
What about it?
I don't know.
Just transportation in general?
Yeah.
You mean like boat transportation?
Yeah.
Right, so you can get on a boat and go places, which we think of boats as a lot slower, but back in the olden days, it was way cheaper and way faster to go by boat, and it's also a lot safer because there are fewer pirates on water than there were barbarians and outlaws on land. So that's a really good point. San Francisco is not a very old city, but for a lot of older cities, that was a big consideration. Like the Mediterranean, you could get around the sea really easily. Bella, you had another good economic reason, and I want you to share that.
The ocean is a good tourist spot.
Mm-hmm. And that's a more modern consideration. Tourism didn't really exist before like 1850, basically. But yeah, nowadays to have a really beautiful beach right by your city, that's going to bring in a lot of tourists and a lot of money. Anything else anyone saw with these? One other special feature I wanted to mention is this body of water, which is called a what? The sea is outside, but when you've got this little part and then there's a bunch in here, Massachusetts also has one. Yeah, that's a bay. And this is a really nice bay because it's really big and there's only one place where you can get into it. So that makes it, again, like you said, really easily defensible, Dylan. Okay. Can someone talk a little bit about DC and Baltimore real quick? I know we covered a lot of the points, but why, is there any way that this one is different from this one? Yeah, Matt?
DC is more out of the way. I mean, it's still by water, but you don't have to travel more
Mm-hmm.
to get there.
Yeah. And more specifically, this is the Potomac River, so it's really hard to get to that with big ships, which means that it's really hard to attack by the sea because you can't really fire big cannons on it. Okay? So the reason, can anyone think actually of why we're discussing this right now? Does anyone know what today's lesson is about?
Byzantine.
Yeah, which was renamed? Which was then renamed? Thank you.
Nice.
Yes. So Constantinople has a lot of these same advantages. So I want you guys to look at this to try and jog your memory ideas. I don't know what my laser pointer went. That's
While
not
you're
great.
looking for that, I'm going
Thank you. Right here.
I'm
Okay.
gonna pass this out.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
also, if you guys can take out your Cornell notes that are due, some of you already turned them in, but if you can take out the ones that were due on chapter 10, section 1, make sure your name's at the top and pass them up to the front. I'm gonna pass out the new table of contents thing.
Did we pass it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're just passing up the notes that are due, and I'm passing these out at the same time. Thank you. So Cornell notes, chapter 10, section 1.
You can also
You
take
don't
those.
have any tonight. So if you didn't turn anything in, now's a good time to get caught up.
You need them to decorate?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That.
You guys can, pass your markers.
That.
Back row, back there.
Okay,
Would you?
I got them. Okay, so I'm gonna collect the Cornell notes. Does everyone have a table of contents? A new table of contents, all right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so we already did the do now, so that's part 1. I'm also going to lecture for a little while, just so I make sure you guys have the basics on the Byzantine Empire and the 3 really powerful people we're talking about today. And then we're gonna circle up and have a Socratic seminar. I want you guys all to participate and use the sources you read for homework. And we're going to argue with each other about who's the most powerful person in the Byzantine Empire. Any questions before I begin? Most excellent. First thing we're going to talk about is the founding of Constantinople. So, in the last couple hundred years of the Roman Empire, everything was pretty bad. There were constant civil wars, aristocrats were being poisoned by their lead utensils. I know you guys didn't discuss that, but there were a lot of biological causes to the downfall of the empire. But there was really frequent civil war. So this one emperor, Constantine, had a bunch of rivals. He managed to defeat and kill them all, and he decided that this one big empire thing wasn't working anymore. So in 330, he split the empire, and he made the eastern half the new capital. Or sorry, he made Constantinople the new capital of the eastern half, which you can see here. He made He made Constantinople the capital of this half of the empire. This is actually shown after the fall of the West, but that's the western half beforehand. So he made Byzantium the capital because, well, we're going to discuss that, but it had a bunch of geographical advantages, so he thought it was a really good place for a capital. It was renamed Constantinople after his death in his honor because people really liked him. And the western half of the empire was really, really hurt by this because there was a much poorer tax base in the west. And as I mentioned to Brooke last time, that's because we had all those old empires in the east, and there were still remnants of their wealth around there. There were still some pretty big ancient cities. Whereas in the west, in France and Spain and Germany and Britain, there was nothing but barbarians. There was no one you could tax without them pulling out a big battle axe and swinging it at you. So it was much more dangerous and much poorer. Okay? Let me know when you're done. Sorry. Let me know if I'm here. Everyone good? Tell me if you have a question.
Is Constantine the first blank? I'll tell you.
Yeah. it is. Everyone good? Macro, you good? Okay. So, what are the advantages of building a major city here? We're going to start with the large-scale stuff. We're zooming way out and looking at the entire Mediterranean. So, there's Constantinople. Why would you build a city there?
Because it's near water. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Because it's near water.
What water?
The Black Sea,
And?
the Mediterranean,
Mm-hmm. And what's this smaller one right here?
the, I don't remember how to say it,
Aegean.
Aegean Sea.
And why do we care about the Aegean, Poonam?
Because it leads into the Mediterranean.
That's part of it, but who was there? Like we've studied in a past unit, the Aegean was a really big deal to some people.
Rome? No.
Guess again. Do you know what country this is?
Oh, Turkey.
No,
This is Turkey. I'll give you a hint, that's Athens right there.
Oh, Italy. Wait, what? Greece.
Yeah, there you go. You get all the prizes. That's Greece. And these are all Greek colonies around here. Greek colonies work as city-states, so again, they're pretty wealthy. If you have all these city-states right near your capital, lots of trade, lots and lots of trade. Same with the Black Sea, because the Byzantine Empire is all along here, lots of trade. Anything else? We've got bodies of water, as Poonam said. David?
Not just near a body of water that controls the Black Sea through the Bering Strait.
So why would that be a big deal?
It can pretty much dictate any price of trade going from the Aegean Sea to the Black Sea.
Exactly, lots of taxes. You basically have this really big glorified toll booth in Constantinople where any boat trying to get through your little strait there has to pay you a bunch of money so that they can ship their goods elsewhere. Or they'll just stop there and let you deal with the trade and you get to mark up as a middleman. Very good. Anything else? One other thing, what's around here? What's all this stuff? Remember what we said about Eastern empires? Jake, you got an idea?
That, wait, what was the question?
Why is this area important? Why is it nice to be near right here? Empires? Eastern empires? Do we care about Eastern empires at all?
Yes.
We do, because they are wealthy, right? So since these are all part of the Byzantine Empire, being near them means you can tax them more effectively as well as defend them more effectively because you're right there. Because this is a distance of about 700 miles, I think. So that's a lot closer. Okay? And here's a summary of all that stuff. We're going to copy it down. Oh, I forgot to mention the Silk Road. The Silk Road ran from China and India all the way into Europe. And one of the main ways they did that was going north of the Black Sea, but a lot of the trade also ran through Constantinople. So again, like David said, lots of poll taxes. Sorry, not poll taxes, that's a different thing. Lots of taxes. There you go. Last couple of people, take another 10 or so seconds. Here we go. Now we're going to do the small scale stuff. So I'm not going to help you guys with this one at all. I want you to raise your hands and tell me why this is, again, a cool place to put a city. Hello. Thanks so much.
thank you.
You thought of anything different? You know what kind of land formation that's called? Like surrounded by water on it. Do you think it might be advantageous to be on a peninsula? They could attack you from water, but the thing with water is Marines, you know what a Marine is? Like a modern Marine. So they didn't have Marines, they didn't have anyone who was really good at attacking directly from water. And so when you have walls, I know you can't see it, but this gray, that's a wall, it's a sea wall. So you think it would be easy to get off a boat and immediately climb over a wall to try and get into a city? That's pretty hard to do. You're going to get killed pretty quickly trying to do that. So peninsulas are cool because it's hard to attack from water. Anything else? Got anything? Sure. Maybe get some hints. What's that thing? And what does it do, Jake? It does protect the city. So Constantine built a wall because this is all safe, and then if you build a wall right across the fourth side, then when you're under siege, you are totally protected. Yeah, there's a second wall, the wall of Theodosius, which was built, I think, later. I think it's later. But you only need one wall, really, so we're going to focus on the wall of Constantine. And if you're being besieged, what's another nice thing to have? Actually, what's the purpose of a siege? Can anyone tell me that? Yeah, they're trying to starve you out. It's called a war of attrition at that point. You're just waiting to see who runs out of resources first. So something you don't want to do is run out of water, which is why these cisterns or water holders were really important, because it made sure that even if barbarians did manage to surround your city, you had a fresh supply of water for at least some amount of time. And lastly, there are harbors. Harbors are very nice because it gives you a place to put your boats. Just like we saw San Francisco, which had a really big harbor, These aren't quite as big, they're actually way smaller to be honest, but there are multiple of them. And since their fleet wasn't as big as San Francisco's has been with the giant steel destroyers we have these days, this was sufficient to give them a safe place to put their boats and repair them and resupply them and all that stuff. Okay? Does anyone see anything else? Just curious if anyone wanted to get creative. There it is. Just to be clear, here it says Constantine protected this city by. Tammy, can you tell me what goes in there? Now we're going to talk a little bit about Justinian I himself. First, some background information. So he became emperor in 527 CE. So just to give you a little perspective, this is 50 years after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, or the disputed fall of the Western Roman Empire, when Rome was invaded and barbarians basically took everything over. He had a classical education, no surprise. He was trained in law, architecture, and theology. Theology at this time basically meaning the study of Christianity. He was a very Christian emperor. In here you can see him on a coin. You've got some crosses there because he wanted to show what a Christian he was. This K, again, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it stands for Christos or Christ.
Yeah.
Right? Good. Okay.
Greek.
Is that Greek? As emperor, he had a lot of power. Can anyone tell me what meritocracy means? He created a meritocracy. Does anyone know what merit is? You possess a lot of merit. It's related to award. Why would you get an award though? Did something, how? Did you do it poorly? Did you show a lot of skill? Yeah, you did really well. So merit just means skill or doing something well. And crassy, where have we seen that suffix before? Democracy. So what does democracy mean? What's demos?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Oh. Wait, what? Sorry.
Demos is Greek for a word. Did you guys know? Yeah, people, and crassy means
Needed.
rule by. Rule by the people, or government by the people, right? So what's a meritocracy? It's putting good people into power, basically. Justinian was a meritocrat, I guess you could say. He didn't put his family and friends into power, which is called nepotism. He believed in meritocracy. So he tried to find, for his commerce positions, he tried to find guys who knew a lot about commerce. For his war positions, he tried to find guys who were really good at killing barbarians and that kind of thing. The reason that's important is simply because it was pretty rare for the time. Like, people usually just put their friends and family into power and didn't bother looking at skill. We actually did that in the US in the late 1800s. Political parties didn't become about trying to find the best candidate until the early 1900s. Okay, he was also leader of the Army, Navy, made laws, headed the government and church, and was the Supreme Judge. Get that down? Great. Empress Theodora, this was his wife. Does anyone know a little bit about the origins of Empress Theodora? What did she do before she was empress? She was what we could euphemistically call an exotic dancer, what we could more honestly call a prostitute. Yeah, she was a prostitute. She was, in her defense, a very smart prostitute. She was very good with people. And so when the emperor saw one of her shows, he was mystified by her beauty and said, I have to marry her. And so he had his uncle change the laws of the empire. Justin I was emperor at the time. So he had the laws changed so he could marry this prostitute. And then she became empress. So that's pretty cool. So she helped him make decisions, meaning she had a lot of influence over him. One way she did that was by convincing him to let women own land. She also influenced the Justinian Code a lot, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And she also convinced him to stay during the Nika riots and kill a bunch of the citizens of Constantinople so they could retain power. What? That she convinced them to do that? Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, that's just a mosaic. Ms. Reagan is going to go over in more detail the art of the Byzantine Empire, but these are all little tiny ceramic tiles, and that's one of the main ways they did art. And this is Theodora with some of her servants. Very beautiful. Conquest under Justinian. So he wanted to He wanted to restore Rome to its former glory. Because as I just said, in 476 the Western Empire fell, and barbarians had taken over Italy, North Africa, Spain, France, England, all these places had fallen to the barbarians. He wanted to reverse that. So he ordered the reconquest of the old parts of the Roman Empire. He did that by having his man Belisarius go off and lead 3 expeditions in the Western Mediterranean. And in the end, he was able to retake Italy, Spain, parts of Spain, a little bit of Spain, parts of North Africa, and the Balkans. But it's important, at least from my point of view, to recognize that Justinian never left his palace. Belisarius did all of the conquering. I don't know if Justinian even ever held a sword. Probably during a ceremony or two. We'll have time on the next slide because we're going to continue talking about this. So when Belisarius went out, the first thing he did was he went right down here and he swept all this up and reconquered Carthage, even though, as we know, Carthage was mostly destroyed or entirely destroyed. And then a year or two later, he went up through Sicily and reconquered all this stuff, eventually conquering Spain and the Balkans as well. These are the Balkan Mountains. Contains Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, and Croatia. So this is what's now Croatia. He took over part of that. Okay? Lots of land retaken. Unfortunately, because it was so expensive to hold on to these parts, a lot of it went back to barbarian rule after Justinian died. But he had it for a little while. Now we're going to talk about Justinian's code. He wanted to simplify the current legal system because all the laws in the empire were really jumbled and confusing and no one really knew what the heck to do during, like, when someone was sued or really anything to do with crime. So he wanted to organize the legal system, and he chose 10 people to go through Roman laws and compile them. Because the Romans, as we know, were pretty good at law. They were good at enforcing them especially. So he had them compile them, and over the course of 6 years, they managed to fit all of Roman law into 50 books. I know that might not sound like a very small amount because those books were like really fat, but our current legal system fits into basically a couple thousand books. We have lots and lots and lots and lots of precedent to pay attention to. So this was actually a really efficient legal system. It became the law of the land, so it was de facto the law of the land. It wasn't just the law and then people did other stuff. It was actually enforced. It formed the basis for a lot of civil law in the Western civilization as well. And we can actually find traces of